Right. So this is going to be chapter 24, sections 1, 2, and 3. Video is going to look a little bit longer, but again, y'all can break this up and watch this however y'all want to watch it. However y'all want to get it done, just get it done. But I'm going through the notes on chapter 24, section 1 first. Probably repeat myself twice just to kind of cut down the time. Use the functions on your phone or however you're watching the video to kind of like fast forward and go backwards. Please drop me some type of comment or leave something in Google Classroom. Send me an email to let me know if the sound is off. Like we washing and drying clothes back here right now, so if it sounds funny, please just send me something and I'll try to fix the audio and mess with it and re-upload it and stuff like that. So going through looking at the landforms and resources first, right? So with landforms and resources, we're going to be looking at all the different setup in South Asia. We're done with Southwest Asia. We're now moving into South Asia, which is like India, Afghanistan, Pakistan, Nepal, Sri Lanka, Bangladesh, places like that. Yeah, places like that. So looking at the first note that says subcontinent, here's what you need to know about this area. Put this down. South Asia is called the subcontinent, and India dominates it. South Asia is called the subcontinent, and India dominates it. So we say India dominates it because India is the largest country on the subcontinent, but there are other countries on the subcontinent of South Asia. So that's what a subcontinent is, just a large land mass, and it's called that because it's a bigger area than some of the other areas that we study. Like Southwest Asia is way smaller than South Asia. Moving forward into the Himalayas, put this down for the Himalayas. They are a mountain system of parallel ranges with the highest peaks on Earth. They are a mountain system of parallel ranges with the highest peaks on Earth. One more time. They're a mountain system of parallel ranges with the highest peaks on Earth. So the Himalayas, they have a whole section of the book talking about how they were formed with two plates supposedly hitting each other and creating this mountain range. Not getting into creation too much, but that's how it's reported that they were made. Moving on from there into Mount Everest, we should all know, just put this down, is the tallest peak in the world. It's the tallest peak, mountain peak in the world. Is the tallest peak in the world. All right. Moving from the Himalayas into another mountain range, the Hindu Kush. So put this down, a little bit more location. Put these mountains are west of the Himalayas, and they separate Pakistan and Afghanistan. These mountains are west of the Himalayas, and they separate Pakistan and Afghanistan. These mountains are west of the Himalayas and separate Afghanistan and Pakistan. So moving away from mountain ranges into water sources. So water sources in the area include 3 large rivers, and instead of having you write down what I'm saying, I put the words in there so you can see them. The Indus, the Ganges, and the Brahmaputra. I know I ain't said that right, but that's what we're going with. For that note, here's what you need to put. They create a large river system for most of the sub-Indian continent. I'm sorry. Here's what you need to put. They create most of the water power and water resources for the subcontinent. They create most of the water and water resources for the subcontinent. They create most of the water and water resources for the subcontinent. So when we talk about sediment being deposited, we talk about irrigation, we talk about river travel. It all comes mainly from these three river systems and their little tributaries and things. Continuing to talk about those river systems, like because they drain in a similar area, they create what they call alluvial plains, and that's a fancy word for, put this down, very short note for alluvial plain, put is lands that are rich in farmland. Lands that are rich in farmland. Lands that are rich in farmland. That's what an alluvial plain is. So it seemed like it's fancy, but it's regular. Like the Mississippi River Delta is an alluvial plain, but we didn't use that word when we talked about the Mississippi, but we're using it here. The Indo-Gangetic Plain. So the Indus River and the Ganges River create the Indus-Gangetic Plain. Put this down for that. It's one of the most fertile farming regions in the world. It's one of the most fertile farming regions in the world. It's one of the most fertile farming regions in the world. When I talked about the beginning of this section, I mentioned like Sri Lanka and some islands below India. So we're getting into those islands now, and when you talk about the Sri Lanka area, Sri Lanka is a big island, but the Maldives is another island there, and it is what they call an atoll. So put this down for atoll. It is a group of small circular islands that are actually the tops of volcanoes. It is a group of small circular islands that are actually the tops of volcanoes. It is a small group of circular islands that are actually the tops of volcanoes. So you end up having like little groups of islands, and if you was to fly over them, or if you was to look in the book on 553, you will see like little circular dots in the ocean, and these are not just floating land, but if you were to go deeper into the ocean, you would see that it's like a volcanic that has built up and created this atoll or small little group of islands. Continuing in section 1, we got more about the river systems. So for river systems, put this down because those river systems provide things. I think I kind of mentioned like they provided water and water resources. So here are the 3 water resources that those river systems provide. Put they give water for irrigation, fishing, transportation, and power. They give water for irrigation, fishing, transportation, and power. One last time, they give water for irrigation, fishing, transportation, and power. Right? So when you look at everything that's available for the people who's living on the sub-Indian continent, that they get from those rivers, they getting it mainly from those 3 river systems, and it's all those different things. And really when we get into section 3, you'll see some more stuff that they actually get from the river systems, and like they depend on it, and it's kind of weird, kind of gross. Natural resources, put this down. They have iron ore, which helps the steel industry, and they have mica, M-I-C-A, which helps with the computer industry. They have iron ore, which helps the steel industry, and they have mica, M-I-C-A, which helps the computer industry. Again, they have iron ore for the steel industry and mica for the computer industry. So that's like 2 areas, mainly in India, where they have this mica. 2 areas where like they look to their mineral resources, and that's the minerals they have. When we did Southwest Asia, they was talking about oil. Not much here, but they have minerals. Finishing up section 1, deforestation. Put this down. Uh, it creates the problems of erosion, flooding, and landslides in India. It creates the problem of erosion, flooding, and landslides in India. One last time, it creates the problems of erosion, flooding, and landslides in India. All right, so that's the end of section 1. Please use these notes on any quizzes and stuff that I post. You'll notice, if you've already seen section 2 and section 3, they are relatively short by comparison, because I tried to cut down on like the details and just kind of focus on more what's going to be on the test, not to make this thing long and drawn out. Unfortunately, I can't do this for civics, but my civics students will never know that. But their tests be so detailed, like there's no way to cut down. But for y'all, I can cut down. So looking at section 2, climate and vegetation. This is the start of section 2. Starts off with climate zones. Put this down. South Asia has 6 total climate zones. You don't need to know each one. It's not going to be on the test or nothing. Just put down they have 6 climate zones. 6 climate zones. Okay. Monsoons. So I don't know what y'all think of when you think of a monsoon. Most people think of like a big storm. This is not what a monsoon is. First, we're gonna put what a monsoon is. Second, we're gonna put how it affects people. So monsoons, it's a seasonal wind. Very simple. It's a seasonal wind. Last one. It's a seasonal wind. So the monsoon is just basically winds that come through and blow different types of wind in different seasons. So how does the monsoon affect people or weather patterns? So put this down. From October to February, it blows dry winds. From October to February, it blows dry winds. From October to February, it blows dry winds. So that's their dry season. Continuing, put June to September, it brings moist air. From June to September, it brings moist air. From June to September, it brings moist air. So you have your dry season where these seasonal winds are not bringing any moisture, and then you have your wet season, your rainy season, where it's bringing moist air in and helping like the water cycle take place. And finishing off section 2 with cyclones. So cyclone is basically a hurricane, but they just call it a cyclone over there. Here's what you're putting for cyclones. It's a violent storm with fierce winds and heavy rain. It's a violent storm with fierce winds and heavy rain. It's a violent storm with fierce winds and heavy rain. All right. So, similar to a hurricane, but that's what it is. You'll see questions about the cyclones and stuff come up on the tests and the quizzes and stuff. There's more information that we could have went over, but again, for the sake of saving y'all some time watching these videos and giving y'all what's important, we're gonna skip past it, go right on the stuff that's gonna be tested. Going into chapter 24, section 3. This is section 3. Let me stretch my leg. Oh my goodness. All right. Looking at section 3, we are doing the human environment interaction. So how do people deal with things that's going on in their environment and like the rivers and things that are around them? So the Hindu religion has a connection to the Ganges River. So here's that connection. First note, they believe, and this is the Hindu religion, they believe that it's sacred. They believe it's sacred. They believe it's sacred. So the Hindus treat the river like it's a holy place, like the whole river is holy, right? But that leads to some very weird practices. I said this when I covered section 1, that you will see that the uses of it get kind of strange. So here we go into the uses of the river. They drink the water, they scatter ashes in the water, they worship at the water, and they bathe in the water. I'm gonna repeat that, then I'm gonna give you a little commentary. They drink the water, they scatter ashes in the water, they worship at the water, and they bathe in the water. One more time. They drink from the water, they scatter ashes in the water, they worship at the water, and they bathe in the water. So how nasty is that? Like, it's the same place where other people is bathing, you drinking. The same place where, you know, grandpa died and we cremated him and let's put him in the river. Same place where somebody bathing in. Like, I don't know. It just don't make no sense. Like, why would you do that in the same place where everybody else is drinking and bathing and washing? Let's move on. Storm surges. Lord. Put this down for storm surges. Because the monsoon is a seasonal wind, right? Don't put this down yet, I'm sorry. Because the monsoon is a seasonal wind, like it's wind blowing, and you have these huge river systems that's in South Asia, right? So storm surges, put down monsoon rains and winds can create storm surges. Monsoon rains and winds can create storm surges. Monsoon rain and winds can create storm surges. So you have the rains that come in the rainy season with these high winds. They could blow the water over the banks of rivers, creating flooding and a storm surge. Also, if you have a cyclone during the rainy season, cyclones along with high river levels can create like an inland storm surge. Like we see storm surge on the coast of Louisiana, but that's because we got the Gulf out there. They can see storm surge in the inland part of India and like Nepal and these other countries, because they have huge river systems that's already like high level systems, like they got a lot of water in the river, and then you have a cyclone come through or a strong monsoon wind that can just blow that water clean over the banks and into areas where people live, creating storm surge and possibly killing folks. For estuary, put down that it's a large body of water on the other side of a dam. It's a large body of water on the other side of a dam. A large body of water on the other side of a dam. So in India, in this area of Bangladesh specifically, there's the largest estuary that they created to kind of help against storm surge and the monsoon season, like flooding and stuff. So for the largest in Bangladesh, put this down. The largest estuary is across from the Feni River. That's F-E-N-I. The largest estuary is across from the Feni River. F-E-N-I. The largest estuary is across from the Feni River. So that should be all the notes that you need for chapter 24. You should be able to use these on all the little quizzes that I post. I'm going to post 2 this week, and then next week, like it's going to go into next week's work, it's going to be 1 more quiz and an open book test. So, and everything will be laid out for you. I don't know why I'm telling you.